So today I want us to talk about the philosophical and practical critique of artificial intelligence. AI called SafeBite. What is SafeBite? SafeBite is an artificial intelligence powered tool that can be used to rate restaurants in Kampala. So you always wonder, where am I gonna eat? How am I gonna eat? How much am I gonna eat? And etc. SafeBite is here to help customers, make final decisions about where they can safely get their meals at. So it uses data. It uses information like congestion, air quality in a restaurant, the customer care, price, and any other factor that can limit you or encourage you to go to a certain restaurant. Can computers really think? Let's dive into this. Uh, Theoretically, there are two types of thinking, or two views of thinking. There's a psychological view and a philosophical view. We are going to be focusing mainly on the philosophical view, but the psychological view is just you can imagine it as a computer, for example, taking in input, being able to process, and giving the rightful output. So, in such a view, in the psychological view, computers can actually reason, maybe think to some level, because it's just you being able to take in information, processing it, and giving out the rightful output. The only problem with this is computers lack imagination and meaning. So, for example, let me give you an example. When I tell my phone, "Hi Siri, shut down my phone," it will actually shut down the phone. But so it will shut down the phone, but to it doesn't actually know what shutting down really means. It just uses an algorithm, picks out the keywords like "Hey Siri" or "shut down," the keywords like "shut down" and "my phone," and use a special kind of algorithm to actually know what to do. But it won't actually have a semantic or conscious understanding of turning off the phone. It actually doesn't know what the phone is. It's basically an algorithm. Okay, and then the philosophical view of thinking. This basically requires awareness and meaning and consciousness. Like when you think of thinking in this direction, you have to have awareness of what you're actually talking about. When I tell it to shut down, it actually knows that shutting down is this, not just it doesn't just take the action, but it knows truly what it is doing. So in the case of SafeBite, our AI, SafeBite can actually predict which restaurant is safer, which restaurant has better customer care, or which has a better congestion, sorry, a less congestion, or which one has a good air, or which one has a better air quality or saturation, right? But to it actually doesn't understand what bad air means. So I want to use the Chinese room argument to further point out, to further emphasize my opinion that computers can't really think. Well, they can't really think to the human level, to the conscious level. They can reason maybe, but they can't really think. So what is the Chinese room argument? So picture you, a person seeing me right now, in a room with a Chinese rule book, with an English Chinese rule book. You don't understand Chinese, but there's a woman, for example, outside who's constantly giving you questions in Chinese, and this rule book literally, when you see a character, the rule book contains characters that you have to respond with the questions they've given you. So let me clarify on that. So when they give you a question in Chinese with random character, remember you don't understand Chinese, you are given characters to put, like, to respond to the characters given to you. So that means you're not really understanding the question, but you actually know what to respond with. That is basically the Chinese room argument. So what does this have to do with our understanding and our thinking of a computer? Well, this basically proves that a computer can know what to respond to your question or to your command, but it does not really internally know or understand what you're talking about. For example, let's go back to SafeBite. SafeBite relies only on programmed instructions, the data you feed into it. For example, congestion, air quality of a restaurant. We talk about things like pricing, accessibility, customer care, such factors. So it knows what you feed into it, but it cannot really understand. So it just uses an algorithm to figure out which restaurant is nearer to you, for example. Another argument to further emphasize my point of how computers can't think or can't really think is 8 types of intelligence, and more specifically, the Gardner's 8 types of intelligence. We know that computers like SafeBait or any other artificial intelligence, they show or they exhibit a type of intelligence called logical mathematical intelligence. This is where they use partners and data patterns and algorithms to make a decision on any subject. So they just actually use algorithms. They don't think on a conscious human level. But the only problem is they lack some kind of intelligences, and this is what I'm trying to use to prove that they don't actually think because they lack most of the other types of intelligences. For example, the first one is interpersonal intelligence. This is interperson means the interactions you and some other person. So first of all, they lack emotions. Uh, so this basically means a self-bait cannot make a decision of emotions. Remember, as humans, you can decide to go to a restaurant because you had your last birthday party at that restaurant. So you don't look at hygiene or any other factor, but just that emotion of you have memories there makes you pick that restaurant. But self-bait, on the other hand, it just makes decisions of the data or patterns or algorithms that it's supposed to use. It doesn't have any other ability to make decisions of data it wasn't programmed to use. So when you tell it to recommend you a restaurant, for example, in Kampala, it will just base off things like a traffic jam, for example, to find out which one is more congested than the other. User feedback to find out which users have been complaining about a certain restaurant or something. So it doesn't have an understanding of emotions to find out that you like that restaurant because you have some other girl who looks beautiful and you wanna see her or anything like that, basically. The other type is intraperson. This basically means self-bite or AI or computers in general. They have no self-awareness. They are not conscious. They don't have that person in you, that intuition, for example. So they can't make decisions of just. So intuition is basically that gut feeling. So like you have some two decisions to make, two choices, and you just choose one of just feeling or something. Computers can't really do that. The next argument is a frame problem. It's another very common argument in the world of AI, machine learning, computer learning, whatever. Uh, well, this is what it says. The frame problem suggests that an AI or a computer cannot think beyond the factors that it was made to think. What do I mean by this? Let me give you a scenario. You have two restaurants, A and B. Restaurant A is fair rated. It has a fair air quality, it has fair pricing and fair food quality, right? But your sister works in restaurant A. And then there is restaurant B. It's a very good restaurant. It's highly rated, one of the best in Kampala. Very good air quality, very good price, and very good customer care. So when you ask an AI to recommend to you which of the two restaurants you would actually have lunch to, it's gonna tell you A. Why? It was not programmed to it was not programmed to know who your sister is or to know the emotions that come with a human understanding to figure out that I love this person more than this. So it's gonna tell you go to B, which was the best rated because it was programmed to actually carry out algorithms and find out which one's better. But you as a person, when you're making this kind of decision, you're gonna put in some factors like this is my sister in a restaurant A. So you're gonna prefer restaurant A because you know your sister is there, maybe talk about some discounts, and everything that comes with your sister being somewhere. Could we possibly ever have a computer that can think? So to me, when I say about thinking, I'm talking about the philosophical view of thinking, which contains consciousness and awareness. So I can rephrase the question and say, could we ever have a computer that has consciousness, that has intuition, or something like that? Because when you talk about thinking, just thinking, I can actually tell you that a computer can think. How? When you get any computer and tell it 2 plus 1, it's gonna give you the right answer 3. So isn't it really thinking? It has given you the right output. Isn't that thinking? So I don't want to actually limit what I mean by thinking. So I want to be more specific. Could we ever have a computer that thinks as a human thinks? That's a better question. Um, and I want to use another famous argument for this. It's a Mary's room argument. How does it say? For example, you take for instance you are a human being, whatever. You've been locked in a room from your childhood up to now. That room is only made of black and white colors. It's a grayscale color. You have never seen any other color in the world, but you are a scientist, you're a specialist in color. You have been studying color since you were born. You're now like 20 years old, I don't know. But you have been studying color since you were born. You know about red, orange, blue, and any other kind of color. But you have physically never experienced any other kind of color apart from black and white, which is a gray something something scale. So, and then it says that one day, for example, you open the door and outside you see a red apple. So in that instance of you seeing that red apple, have you learned? Do you learn anything new, or have you learned anything new? Let me first rephrase it for you. You open the door, you have never seen color, but you are a specialist of color. You know all about the wavelength, the how color, you have it in your mind how color is, but you have actually never physically experienced it. And then you open the door and your eyes land on a red apple, for instance. Do you learn something new? Do you get any kind of shock when you go through that experience? So Mary's room thought experiment proves that knowledge is never equal to experience, to lived experience, which may refer as to qualia. So you may have knowledge about something, but if you have never actually experienced that, so it's true that when Mary sees the apple, they learn something new because they are experiencing that for the first time. Yes, they knew about red, they knew everything about red, but that is the first time they're actually seeing red. So what does this mean? So it means that SafeBite or AI can have all the data that even us human beings have about restaurants in Kampala, everything that you know, but it can never actually have that first person experience. It will always lack qualia. Uh, it will always not know what dining is, what comfort is, what getting full or something like. It will never have that kind of experience. And before we get to that point, we can never actually finalize that there is a computer that can be able to think, or we can ever have a computer that's able to think. So as I conclude, I want to take you through the barriers that I think that are going to limit true AI thinking. Number one is metacognition. Well, metacognition. What does that mean? SafeBaitAI can never actually reflect. This means SafeBite can never actually reflect to its own thinking. If it makes a decision on which restaurant is better or which has better air quality, air quality and hygiene, it will never actually reflect after making that decision. It doesn't have that ability. It will just tell you this is better, full stop. That's what it was programmed to do, not to reflect on its decisions. Secondly, is interpersonal intelligence. It can never detect emotions. It can never tell whether you like the other place more because there is your crush works in that restaurant. It doesn't have that ability. It just uses raw data that it was trained to do and it was fed into it. And then number four is intrapersonal intelligence. And so I would like to conclude that SafeBite, the AI that we are currently working on, is a very useful tool to customers for decision making and finding out which restaurants are safer and every factor that I've listed before. Um, but it only simulates reasoning or thinking, but lacks true intelligence. Computers can only process or imitate intelligence, but they can never truly be intelligent. They lack reasoning, they lack intuition, they lack self awareness, they lack reason. They don't know what they are doing. They're just trapped in a body that continuously does what they are supposed to do, what they are told to do.